It's the end of the week. Sunday, there were 9 games on. There were incredibly weird performances, incredibly good performances, incredibly bad performances. There were injuries, and we're going to recap everything. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Exquisitine Buble Schwinslow, and I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Also, head across to lockedondaily.com and sign up for the best NBA newsletter for your favorite team. It's delivered into your box 5 days a week, and it's free. It's lockedondaily.com. You can double bang this one as well, so you never miss an audio or video episode. Listen on both, watch on both. You can't watch the audio unless you're a big fan of audio waves, but you might be, and that's okay. We accept all of those things. Do that, and hey, good luck. Maybe we'll come your way. I don't know. What it is, though, now is Irish Whiskey Day. What's your thoughts on Irish whiskey? I haven't had that many Irish whiskies. It is obviously a different taste to Scottish whiskey, American whiskey, Australian whiskey. I don't mind it, but it's probably not my go-to. But maybe you have a different take on Irish whiskey. But today's the day to celebrate it, whatever your thoughts are on it. Let's just get into a little bit of news regarding, or just things across the NBA. We saw yesterday Domantas Sabonis hurt his hamstring. You're gonna need to sit down for this, because the Kings, he went up, pulled it, grabbed his hamstring, went off, didn't come back. A few minutes into the game, guess what it's called? Hamstring soreness. Oh wow, sore is it again? Julius Randle's coming off groin soreness, cost him 4.5 weeks. Soreness. This is the new thing the NBA teams do. I don't know why. I have no idea why it has crept in this season. But someone pulls a muscle, very obviously, right where we see it happen, and they got soreness. And then 3 days later, yeah, that's actually a strain, isn't it? Yeah, I guess he's going to be out a bit of time there with the old strain. Yeah, he is, isn't he? So I don't really know why teams do it this way. I can't figure it out. They're doing it, but that is what's happening. Now, look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is soreness, which acutely happened, an acute soreness that appeared and caused him to leave the game while grabbing at it. Just acute soreness. And then he's going to be fine. He is out for their next game. Of course he is. I think that is at least, I would say it's 2 weeks, but I don't know. NBA teams mishandle hamstring injuries all the time. So we will see exactly what we get with that, but there you go. Soreness. I'd assume he's out for the year with shoulder surgery. That should help, and we'll talk about the Bulls later. It should help just boost a little bit onto Kevin Huerter. I do not believe he's a must-roster player. It helps a little bit, just a few extra touches to guys like Ball and Gideon White, but I think Lonzo was going to play his 30 anyway, and I think it really impacts hugely there. It's going to help a bunch of those spuds, Phillips and Terry, Javon Carter, get a bit of extra playing time. Trey Jones, who started the second half of today's game. The Rockets, after we did the streaming plan show, and I was like, oh, interesting, back-to-back here, Monday, Tuesday for the Rockets. Well, they're just, I think, going to sit everybody on Monday. Van Vliet's been ruled out, and then everybody else just got a questionable tag. Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks. I don't know if Jalen Green got one, but Şengün got one. So, yeah, just be aware that we might be getting a few little sit-downs from guys. Speaking of my streaming plan, I pivoted off the Rockets and decided to go to George Niang. Well, originally I had Quentin Grimes. A little worried that he doesn't play both games of the back-to-back. And then I said, okay, let's go with Dylan Brooks. And yeah, I don't know if he's going to play now considering that questionable tag. And then in the end, I went to George Niang along with Karis LeVert. And Nianga's ruled out now on Monday as well. So what I settled on as my streaming option plan, so just to update that streaming plan, is because we're going to recap last week's streaming plan on today's show. Karis LeVert and Terrence Mann. I can't believe it. I'm doing Terrence Mann. But yeah, Terrence Mann for the Monday, Tuesday back-to-back, and LeVert and Terrence Mann for the 3 games in 4 nights, Monday through Thursday. We'll see how it goes. And then there's a bunch of two-way contracts. A bunch of, I'm going to call it the two-way shuffle because, I'm cool and all that. Just a bunch of guys sort of being added and dropped and moved around off rosters all over the shop here at the moment. And I'll run through them. Not that many are that important, but I will go through them. So we had the Rockets convert Jonathan Williams Jr., Nate Williams, from a two-way into a full-time contract. They waived Cody Zeller in that process. The Celtics waived Anton Watson, and they brought in Miles Norris on a two-way contract. The Knicks waived Matt Ryan and Jacob Toppin off their contracts. I don't believe the Knicks at this point have brought anybody in, so we'll keep watching that. We had Jaden Springer off a 10-day get converted by the Jazz into a longer-term deal. We had Justin Champagnie in Washington converted off a two-way into a full-time deal as well. The Trojan, Domi Barlow, got converted by the Hawks off a two-way into a full-time contract. And a lot of these with these bad teams especially just gives you an indication, are you guys going to be sitting some other players here, and this gives you players who would only be able to play in 50% of games opportunities? It's something to at least be considering with a bunch of these deals. JT Thor got released by the Cavs. Daquan Tomlin came in to take the two-way deal. Kyle O'Callaghan was waived by the Mavs. They brought in Kai Jones to take that two-way slot. Reminder, Moses Brown is done with the Mavericks. His time is finished there. That is expired. Lester Quinones came in on a two-way with the Pelicans, and Jalen Crutcher, who was just signed the other day, he got waived as well. And I think that's basically all the moves that we've seen happen. But a lot of conversions, a lot of Jordan Miller from the Clippers got converted. He had one game left, I think, on his contract, or maybe he was actually topped out where he couldn't play any more games. So he's been converted as well. But a lot of those two ways. And March the 4th is the final day where you can sign someone to a two-way contract. So we're getting all that stuff happen at the moment. Also, anyone who is now signed to a regular contract, or any contract, because two ways don't count, will not be available for the playoff roster. So rosters are set for the playoffs now. That is done and dusted. What I thought that we'd do now is take a look at how that streaming plan idea, because we did the streaming shows all during the week. I did the streaming theory show in the All-Star break, just showing how many games we could get in. And then I gave specific names and updated who we'd be adding during the week to see how it would play out. So let's see how it plays out. And the one that we wanted to use this week, because it made the most sense, was to use one streaming slot. And given that we had a 10-game day, I was working under the assumption, and I'm very clear with all these assumptions that we put out there, that you would get 2 games out of a certain bunch of teams that I listed. All the 2 quality game teams, we'd have 2 games to use for those players. And then we'd use our moves on these specific guys in certain slots to be able to get 6 quality games out of one roster slot while dropping somebody who you'd only use twice during the week. On the bottom of the screen, if you're watching on Yahoo, these are the list of names that I threw out there. I said, hey, these guys, if they're one of your worst players, one of your worst 2 players, you could consider dropping them, and you might only use them twice during the week. Again, check your own individual roster and schedule for that 10-game Friday. And then we'll see how it would work if we drop them and then use that roster slot to get 6 games in. Well, let's have a look. The guys that we dropped: George Niang, Karis LeVert, Zach Ricochet, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, Ty Jerome, Zach Edey, Santi Aldama, and the big sneeze, Precious Achiuwa. Now, some of those had absolutely enormous games during that time. Obviously, they did. But let's have a look how it worked out. If we drop them, again, you could have got a good game out of them, but you might have used them twice. Likely, this is the strategy here: use them twice. So if the streaming plan that I organized was, one of them was you do Quentin Grimes into 2 games of Keldon Johnson, into 2 games of Najee Marshall, into 1 game of Zach Collins today. The other option was Chris Dunn into 2 games of Dylan Brooks, into 2 games of Moses Moody, into 1 game of Andrew Nembhard. All those totals are up on the screen. Just to simplify it, I'll read it out in terms of fantasy points. But that Quentin Grimes, Keldon Johnson, Najee Marshall, Zach Collins, 6 games from them, 138.5 fantasy points. For Yahoo, ESPN, 136. The drop guys, the best performing drop player was Ty Jerome. Was it? No, it was Santi Aldama, who had 85.8 fantasy points. So Aldama had an absolute monster game on Saturday with 11 assists when they sat everybody down. And if you dropped him, you still gained 50 plus points from that roster slot. Ty Jerome also benefited immensely today because Donovan Mitchell rested. So he got up to 82.4 points across his 2 quality games. And you would have still beat that by 55 fantasy points. If you use the second streaming option, Dunn, Brooks, Moody, Nembhard, you got to 162 Yahoo points. So basically, Aldama and Jerome, I don't think you could have asked for better performances from those guys this week. Yet, if you drop them and stream through, you doubled their production. Up from 86 to 162, which is not quite double, it's a bit less than double. And Jerome from 82 up to 162. And if you chose one of the worst guys to drop, Ricochet, who had 23.2 fantasy points on the 2 low-volume days, or Achua, who had 27.2, well, you went from 27.2 to 162. Bro, what? 162. So, and like people were like, and I was like, oh, maybe do we keep Ricochet here? Or maybe you held on to Levert, who had 52 fantasy points. Or maybe you were considering even DeAndre Hunter, who had a really good game today. Or Max Strus, who had 55. You got 100 more fantasy points than what DeAndre Hunter provided you this week if you streamed in the Dunn, Brooks, Moody, Nembhard combo. It's an absolute whitewash in that particular spot. Now, the different thing is, and this is one we didn't want to use because I hated the way that it played out with 2 slots, because of the way the schedule played out and the way that the teams were aligned, it was not the way to go. And I think that gets bared out in the information. That is the 2-slot streamers. Because the only way you could do it to max games out was to use a Hornets player for 3 games in 4 nights and then switch to a weekend back-to-back of the Spurs. And that's what we did. The problem is that the players who could be available on those teams were not good enough. Nick Smith Jr. switched into Harrison Barnes. Or Josh Green switched into Bismack Biyombo. So if we used our 2 slots and did both of those things, it didn't give us very much. You can see the numbers on the screen. Look, it's fine. 147 fantasy points, right? Which is okay. It's okay. It's not great. It's okay. 147 fantasy points for 2 slots, which is 10 games. Again, not very good because our options were very limited. And if I use the 2 best case scenario guys of the guys that I considered dropping, which would have been Aldama and Jerome, they would have netted you 168 fantasy points. So they would have beaten it. 4 games versus 10. Big difference there, yes? Obviously. But if you had chosen the 2 worst guys, if you had the 2 worst guys on your team to drop, Achua and Ricochet, they would have got you 50 combined fantasy points, whereas these other bunch of, this Nick Smith, Harrison Barnes, Josh Green, Biyombo combo would have got you 147. So you would have tripled the numbers there. But that's what I mean when I said we don't want to really do the 2-slot stream this week because the options are so not very good that I don't feel that there is a level of confidence that you're going to smash through the value. And you could have if you had Niang, Levert, Ricochet, Capella, Hunter, Achua, Edie to drop. But if you had a Jerome there, if you had an Aldama there, you probably wouldn't have done it. Now, I guess the thing is there, if you had say Aldama who had 86 points and Hunter who had 66, that's 150 points. It's exactly the same. And that's the best and the 3rd best option. So overall, it still would have worked in a majority of cases, but the guarantee just wasn't there. And that's why I didn't like that as a strategy. So that's the recap on that. The 1-slot stream, smashed it. And we'll see how it does in the next week as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Of course it is, because as the NBA games tip off, the NBA action, it's just getting started. That is not the end of things as a game tips off, especially when FanDuel is involved, because you can get all your action in with America's #1 sportsbook. The game tips off, you see the action unfolding. Oh, maybe we'll place a bet on this for the second half, or a big team's going to have a comeback, or a team's going to choke under pressure. You can put all those bets there, live bets. You can also combine those live bets into a same-game parlay to increase your payout options. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. I think when we do that streaming plan recap in future weeks, I'll make it way shorter, just here are the results, here's what happened. But I wanted to really go through again the ideas behind it and the ways that it played out, and just again to provide evidence. Yeah, but we won't do it to that degree as we move forward. Let's get into talking about the games. The first game of the day, the Denver Nuggets, early one, against the Boston Celtics. The Nuggets did change the lineup. Last game they started Zeke Naji with Aaron Gordon out. This time they went back to that lineup that they've been using so often with Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup. Westbrook played 36 minutes. He had 12, 3 and 6, 2 steals and a block, which is fine. 39% from the field, and he missed his only free throw. That sucks. But previously, Westbrook was only playing 25 minutes or so. And the way that things are trending on this team, I don't think Westbrook's getting those minutes if Gordon plays. So if you want to stream him and use him in this spot, no worries. but they're also one of 12 teams that play 3 games next week. And I'm not going to be particularly excited about having Westbrook on my squad because Michael Malone did the most Tibbs thing I've ever seen. Christian Brown basically didn't come out of the game. Brown in the second half didn't come out of the game at all, did he? I don't know. Well, it's ridiculous. He played 46 minutes and 48 seconds. I don't even know where that 1 minute, 12 second break was. He had 24 and 6, 3 assists, 4 steals, and a block. He shot 46%. He is on an incredible run again. And yeah, I have been completely wrong about Brown many times this season. I also think there was an element of not necessarily luck, but a little bit of luck because he got benched. He got pushed down to a 25-minute bench role for like 2 games, then Westbrook got injured. And then he's back in this role, and I don't think it's changing in the coming weeks. So he's been awesome. He had a big dip. Malone benched him. I thought, all right, I don't know that we need to hold. Westbrook got hurt, and he's been flying since. I think that's going to end up being a wrong call. Michael Porter had 10 points in 40 minutes with 2 threes. Bro's been very up and down. If you're in a very shallow league, I'm talking 6, maybe 8, he's on the bubble. He's on the bubble. Like we talked about with the streaming plan, like you can see some guys who you consider guys you just want to roster. Like if things aren't really working out and the games don't make sense, you can just do better. Jokic, 20 and 14, 9 assists, just a pretty standard Knick game, and the headmaster had 26, 6 and 7. That is, of course, Jamal Murray. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics side of this. They had no Porzingis again, and no Drew Holiday again with mallet finger. Their next game is Wednesday, and it's a Wednesday-Thursday back-to-back. So you'd have to expect that Porzingis and Holiday are at risk of sitting that Wednesday game as well. What we are getting at the moment, though, is a lot of Al Horford. 35 minutes of Al, 19 and 8 with 3 steals. And you can stream that. I wouldn't add him and go, oh, well, let's hold on to Al Horford for 2 days with no games on for him to play 1 game in the next 4 days. Not worth it, but that was good. Jaylen Brown, 22, 5 and 8 with a Richie Beno. And Derek White had 17 with 5 threes. Tatum, a little bit quiet, including some horrid shooting, 27%. 16, 11, and 7 is solid. And then the guy that got the start was Luke Cornett, 31 minutes. Sam Hauser started last game, Cornett this game. I wouldn't say that Cornett's game is super great. 8, 1 rebound, 4 assists. He had a block. He's had better games. But it was worthy if you wanted to take a single stream just to see what happened, but it didn't work. And Peyton Pritchard, the ups and downs continue for this man. 11 points in 26 minutes with 3 threes. And I'm getting a feeling a little bit that he might be a bit of a bad team merchant. At least at the moment. Good team, close game, limited minutes, even with Holiday and Porzingis out. His production has not been strong. It's been fine, but it's not been strong over the last couple of weeks, and he is outside the top 100 for the season. But I think people give him an idea of being an absolute must. And does he fit into that grouping? Because I'm going to put him on my stream plan test this week, only 3 games on. I'm going to put him in, like, what would happen if we dropped him this week? And how much value could we get out of that roster spot? I think that's sort of where we're at, or where we should be at, with Peyton Pritchard at this time of the year. As dumb as it sounds, because he's been very good for big periods of time, we have to really adjust to the current realities a lot. The Portland Trailblazers, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Blazers really took it up to the Cavs in this one. They didn't get the win, 133-129. I don't know if I said that final score already, but that's okay if I did or didn't, because I'll say it again. On the Blazers side of things, Denny Avdia returned, 1 game absence. Chris Murray moved to the bench. They kept Shaden Sharp starting. Jeremy Grant was out again. Are we here doing it already? Is this the Ides of March already? Bro, go and have a look at Jeremy Grant's stats for the season. You do not want to roster Jeremy Grant. He's shooting, I think, 38% from 2. I think someone checked it out, and it was mentioned on another podcast that he has the worst 2-point percentage shooting season of anyone 6'7" and taller since Kevin Knox. Yeah, it's horrid. We're dropping him. Let's talk about good, because this was an overtime game, so we had extra minutes, but Denny Avdia, 42 minutes in his first game back, 30 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists. That's very good. And he played some center, which is also very important. I don't know that Rob Williams is coming back this season, to be honest. And I don't think Ayton is either. But there's some of that stuff there that will fool you if you buy into it. 13 of 13 from the line won't happen. 62% shooting won't happen. He has been quite up and down, Denny, absolutely. There was a period where they were just keeping him at 28 minutes. He got benched early in the season. But now, I think we might be in real strife here with Grant. This is really big opportunity for Denny to put together a big run. Tamani Kamara had 4 steals in the first half and 4 steals for the game, but he ended with 19 and 5 in 43 minutes. And Anthony Simons had a good scoring game. And he got to the line, which is something, he went for a stretch where he just never took free throws at all, but he did here. 27 with 4 threes. He just doesn't do anything else. Look at that. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, no steals, no blocks. Shaedon Sharpe, we talked about how it looked like he was figuring it out, or he was, the guy to grab and he was cooking, and part of the reason he did it, he was shooting like 65% or something. He shot 35% here. Now, interestingly, he still took 20 attempts, but he had 18 and 6 with 2 assists, so not as good. But with Grant out, we are back in at least trying it out with Sharpe. Scooter played 33 minutes, 15, 4, and 6. It's good enough for me. It's not great. And I get it. He's probably in that grouping of maybe we need to move on here. That could work that way. And I guess the question you're going to ask is, what do we do with Donovan Clingan? Because he played 11 minutes. Why did he play 11 minutes? He fouled out. Now, there are certain things that happen, and I don't see everything that gets said in the fantasy basketball world. I see a lot of things. But I remember saying many times that Donovan Clingan is not good currently. He is not a good player. Not sure if he becomes good. I have my doubts as to how good he ever becomes, but I don't think he's good. And of course, he started and he had a game with 20 rebounds. There's always multiple people who will come at you or just talk about it and how I don't know anything and whatever about Donovan Clingan. Yes? But it is, again, worth repeating. He is not good. He is still in a pretty good position here to be a useful fantasy player. But these ideas of wow, he's awesome, and now, wow, he's trash. The reality, generally, for most of this stuff, just sits firmly in the middle. 4 and 3 with no blocks is horrid. His free throw percentage is terrible. His blocking rate is down. He's been bad because, again, he is not a good player at this point. He will have some good games, but he is not good. And me saying this on record many times about Donovan Clingan, I would actually hold him. I know he hasn't been good, but I would hold him. He's not going to play 11 minutes every night. There will be games where he has multiple blocks. It should even out enough to be useful to hold him. But, again, place your expectations correctly. Delano Banton only 17 minutes because Avdia returned. We know what Banton will do. Get a couple of guys out, give him 26 minutes, you'll want to roster him. But he is of absolutely no priority to this squad. So it'll only be a situation when he has to fill in that he will do the things that you want him to do. On the Cavs side of things, let's get a little bit concerned about Jarrett Allen. He only played 26 minutes. He played 24 the game before, and I think 24 the game before that. 26 minutes in an overtime game without foul trouble. He had 12, 10, and 4 with a steal and 2 blocks. That's not bad. But I think probably for too long, I've talked about, hey, I worry about what happens to him and does he get traded, because I still firmly believe Evan Mobley will be their center. And I don't think that it's a full transition at the moment, but it's worth watching where these minutes head for Jarrett Allen. Now, Donovan Mitchell rested in this game, so that meant that DeAndre Hunter started next to Max Strus. Hunter had 32 with 7 rebounds and 5 threes. That's an unbelievably good game. He went to the line 12 times. Fantastic. That makes him 120th over the last 2 weeks. I don't think, again, good game. I don't think he's an absolute must. It's a good game. Ty Jerome, unbelievable game. He didn't shoot well in this one. Well, actually, that's not true. He shot fine, 47%. But 6 steals, 6 assists. That he gets a ton of usage. He is playing so well. 25, 5, and 6 with 6 steals. Is he worth? Is he a must roster guy? Maybe. It feels like there's always something that pushes him. A foul out, an injury, a rest, 80% shooting. There always seems to be something, which my brain goes, at some point, those things won't happen for a 10-game stretch and he'll be the 200th best player getting 17 bench minutes. But it might not happen. It might not work that way. He's playing ridiculously well. Strus was pretty good, 14 and 8, 2 steals and 4 threes. That's pretty good. If you got that every game, you'd be very happy. But remember, no Mitchell and overtime. So, no, we don't bother to add that. Evan Mobley fouled out in this game as well, 20 and 8 with a block, and Garland just struggled. 25% shooting, 13, 2 and 7, while it was Jerome and Hunter, and to a lesser extent Strus, who were able to get them over the line. Just a weird game overall, but big comeback from them to win this game in overtime. Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready to swoosh, or get ready for them to swoosh, and for you to save, because thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. When a player scores 50 in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Whatever you want to do. Well, what food do you want to choose? Wine and cheese? Brie, camembert? Mexican food, pizzas, French cuisine, noodles, rice, Thai, Vietnamese. Maybe you want a bowl of pho, delicious pho that gets delivered by the DoorDash legends. Well, you can do it and get the 50% off with your code. So sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders of participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, the next game. Your Chicago Bulls and the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers win at 127-112 at home, hosting the Bulls, who had a few guys out of the lineup here. I'd assume, of course, out for the season. Lonzo Ball was out of this game with what they're calling, wrist sprain. Vooch was out with a calf issue. And the guy that you thought could have replaced them was Kevin Huerter. And he was also out with a knee sprain. Are these Dosunmu, Huerter, Ball, Vooch injuries? Is that indicating to us maybe the Bulls might be moving in that direction? I'm not sure. What I know is that if you want to lose games, you play Dalen Terry. He had 2 points in 19 minutes. He actually got replaced at halftime by Ty Jerome, who played 27 minutes. He had 11 with 6 assists. We just keep a reminder, just keep that in your mind that Ty Jerome plays on this team. Because if guys are out, maybe he gets a crack. I had Josh Giddey on the Sal High show the other day. And I think, again, there are always things that when we talk sell highs or buy lows, people just look at them as vibes. Or, well, when I say Josh Giddey won't keep this up, it's vibes. Yeah, because a lot of the ranking value and fantasy points value came from him shooting 60% from three and blocking 2 shots a game. And he was just never going to do it. So while the opportunities might remain solid, he played 34 minutes. He shot 33% in this one. He went 73 from the line. He didn't get a single defensive stat or hit a 3. He had 18, 9, and 7, which is still totally fine. But the level that he was playing at was garbage. It wasn't garbage. It was actually unbelievably good. But relying upon it was going to do you in. You weren't going to be able to get it. Kobe White was great. 26 and 7 with 4 threes. About time, because he's had a few stinkers in a row. Or he's had a rough patch, let's maybe put it that way. And then Matas Buzelis, one of his better games. 30 minutes for him. 18, 6, 2 threes, 1 steal, 1 block. And, importantly, took 16 shots. Now, again, there's no Vooch, there's no Ball, there's no Huerter here. There's no Williams. I don't feel particularly confident in the role they're giving Buzelis every game, but we watch it very closely. They went back to Zach Collins starting over Jalen Smith, but the first game that Jalen Smith came back from concussion, he played 12 minutes, and Collins played 41 in an overtime game. In this one, 29 minutes Collins, 18 Smith. So I don't really know what they're going to do next game. I would not be shocked if, as Smith gets his legs back under him, that he moves into the starting spot, but I don't know. And while Collins is starting and Vooch is out and Smith is the reserve, we go that way. Just don't be shocked if we come back midweek and Vooch is still out and Smith is starting. Jalen had 10 and 6. He had 2 threes and 2 steals. I've done this a lot, but I'll be clear again. I don't think he's very good, Jalen Smith, but he's got a good fantasy game. And there's a lot of sort of things involved. I do believe he'll get a shot. We'll find out. Zach Collins was fine. 16 and 5 with 2 threes. Nothing super spectacular, but fine. And what else happened in this one? Not much. Oh, yeah. No, that's it. That's really the stuff that happened on the Bull side of it. Let's talk about the Pacers side of the game, because it was another Tyrese Halliburton masterclass. Double-digit assists again. 31 minutes, 17, 5, and 12, 3 steals. 58% shooting. Number 2 ranked player over the last 2 weeks. Number 1 over the last 5 games. The amount of hand-wringing about Halliburton and how trash he is and how bad he was and, what a waste. One of the worst picks ever. He might actually just bring it home for you and be unbelievable through the playoffs. Like, this is an unbelievable... Now, he will cool off from this run, but he's cooking. Still no Ben Mathurin. So that means that we just get to funnel more stuff towards Nembhard and Nesmith. And they responded. Now, you are playing the Bulls. Like, that always has to factor into it. But Nesmith had 27 points. He took 16 shots. Aaron Nesmith. How many times has Aaron Nesmith led a team in shooting? Or in attempts? Very few, I reckon. 27 with 6 threes. A very good game. That's not going to happen enough, but at the moment, there's enough streamy value there. Andy Nembhard, 11, 2 and 4 with 2 steals and 2 threes. Okay, solid enough. Mathurin could be back next game. And you don't think Neesmith's going to take that many shots each game, but it was good. Miles Turner did his thing, 16 and 6. Siakam had 20 and 6 with 4 assists and actually blocked 2 shots, but just couldn't hit free throws. But good performances all across the board for this squad. Some people are still rostering Obi Toppin and Thomas Bryant in 12-team leagues, and I feel very sorry for you guys. I don't really know what you're doing. I'm sure none of you listen to this show because that would just make no sense that you'd be rostering those guys in this particular situation. Let's go on to the next game. This was, I believe, is this another it was another overtime game, wasn't it? It was. Miami and the Knicks. The Knicks get it 116, 112, same lineup for the Knicks. Guess what? Precious Achiuwa out of the rotation. So yeah, people are still holding on to him as well.
Get that garbage out of here.
Another player who is not a very good real-life player, and Tom Thibodeau doesn't want to play him. There are 38% roster percentage for Mitchell Robinson. Guys.
Get that garbage out of here.
Why are we holding him? Robinson said before the game he had an 18-minute limit. He played 12 last game, 13 here. He had 2 points with a block, 2 rebounds. What are you expecting here? And even if Mitchell Robinson gets to 28 minutes, in 25 minutes a game last season, he averaged like 1 block a game. He's not good. He's not good anymore, and he's incredibly injured. Holding on to him at this point in the season, again, you know your individual circumstances better than me. But if you're holding on to him and your playoffs are now, it's a crazy move. It's an insane move, actually. Do not do it. Whenever I see a game like this from OG Anunoby, 23 and 9, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, I go, yeah, that's great. Then I go, oh my God. I worry about this guy because this guy goes on the biggest like hot and cold streaks you've seen. He'll have a run where he's the 20th best player, and it's almost Jalen Green-esque. Then he has a run where he scores 4 points combined in 5 games. So that's great, OG. I love that from you. But what's going to go on now? What is actually going on at the moment is Mikal Bridges again sucks. He played 28 minutes in an overtime game. 28. 5 points. He did have 8 assists, but you'll be shocked to know he didn't take a single free throw, and he shot 18% from the field. And honestly, we are getting very close to cutthroat matchups saying, what am I doing with this guy on my team? That is how we should be viewing him. We should start to view Mikal Bridges like he's Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Neesmith. I'm not going to drop him yet because it's hard to break that barrier. But a guy that some people drafted this man at the end of round 1 in drafts last season, which again was crazy at the time. But to be this player now is unbelievable. What a fall off. Juice McBride played more minutes, which is interesting because they're the only team with a Thursday-Friday back-to-back this week. McBride, 30 minutes, 12 points, 3 threes, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He'd be the only streamable option. Honestly, like there's no one else you'd even consider through that spot. You wouldn't consider Precious Achiuwa, and you wouldn't consider Mitchell Robinson because he won't play both of those games. Towns played 40 minutes on his sore knee. Josh Hart played 43 on his. 14 and 7 for Hart, 19 and 16 for Towns, and Bronson had 31, 5 and 6. Good stuff. On to the Miami Heat. Still a bunch of guys for them out, some of them not returning anytime soon, like Little Chungus Nikola-Jovic. But I don't know about Andy Wiggins or Jaime Jaquez Jr. So Wiggins went out, Jaquez replaced him, Jaquez went out, Alec Burks replaced him. So Alec Burks played 25 minutes. He had 12 points with 4 threes and 3 assists. Totally cromulent performance. 80% shooting. Just couldn't bring myself to care about it. They play again tomorrow, sure, but would Burks even start? What happens if Jaquez or Wiggins play? He might not even play. I don't think I'll bother with that. Superman played 29 minutes. Khalil Ware, 12 and 8 with 6 blocks. You love that? I am a little worried that if Wiggins comes back, it cuts him back a little bit. But yeah, Ware should be on a roster, while Adebayo had 30 and 7 in 42 minutes. Hero, 22, 4 and 7, just stock standard stuff. But the other guy we wanted to really check on was Davion Mitchell. Mitchell played 37 minutes. He shot well again, and I don't think that's going to hold. It was a drop because he'd been at 60% over the last week. He's a 55 here. But what he is he gets assists and steals, and he had 5 assists and 2 steals. And if you added him for a Sunday, Monday back-to-back, you're happy with how that started. I just don't think it will hold with that level of efficiency. The minutes remain pretty strong. And 2 other guys who'd been flying, and we talked about them on the waiver wire show earlier today, Hayward Highsmith and Duncan Robinson, well, they were bad. 10 points and 2 threes for Robinson, 8 points and 2 threes with no defensive stats for Highsmith, and they played 31 and 37 minutes respectively. Is this going to trigger a Spo reduction in minutes? Might. At any point, it might. So they are only, I repeat, only stream guys when a scheduled play makes sense. In 10 and 12 and probably, honestly, 14-team leagues. Not guys that you want to hold on to. Absolutely not. The next game, the Toronto Raptors and the Orlando Magic. Pretty crazy end to this game as well. The Magic almost able to force overtime. They lose, though, 104-102. And the Raptors, I won't say the Raptors are particularly going all out to win every game. There's some weird lineups at times they're chucking out there. We had no Ochai Agbaji in this game, and they rolled out the same lineup, but they probably won't in the next one as they busted up their dick. Grady got a whack in the head. He had an issue with his knee. He got a triple banger, in fact. He got a cut lip. He had a knee hyperextension and some like, you know what? The term was so dumb I don't even want to repeat it. Some sort of bone contusion in his something. What's it called? Sit bone contusion. Bro, what do you want about? Anyway, I would say that they just keep Dick shelved for the next game or so, as they roll out a bunch of players that are worse than him. Jakob Poeltl continues to be on somewhat of a minutes limit, but also he had pretty extreme foul trouble in this game. Did he foul out and he ended with 5 fouls? 16 and 11 in 26 minutes, continues to be really good in those minutes. Well, Orlando Robinson got the backup role, 21 minutes, 6 and 7. Robinson still has the two-way game restriction. With Dick going down, Jacoby Walter, Gary Trent III, he started the second half. He played 31 minutes, and he showed you that you don't want to add him. 7 points in 31 minutes. I know people like this guy because he's a bucket. He's a pure hooper. He's going to look pure doing stuff. But I tell you what, he's also going to look bad because he is. And I do not believe in this guy long term. I don't believe in him as a fantasy contributor at all. We'll see where we go. But I have yet to be dissuaded on that with him so far this season. Johnny Mobo playing a lot of the 4 now. 5 and 5, 2 steals and a block. He's fine. It's not bad. And it's deeper league valuable. And I think he'll just play every game from here on out with some bumps along the road. And then Scotty Barnes, only 29 minutes. You go, what is this? Well, he got 3 fouls, like 2 of them just before halftime, and then went basically straight out of the break. And that sort of limited some of his playing time. He ended up with 5 fouls, 10, 3 and 4 with a steal and a block is pretty rough. Quickly was very good, 24, 2 and 4. Barrett was very good, 22, 5 and 5 there as well. Just keep an eye on Dick and Agbaji because they're both out, and you'd think that you're going to get some big minutes here from Jacoby Walter. AJ Lawson will get in the mix, maybe even someone like Jamison Battle, but we don't need to be worried about most of those guys. Jamal Shed is an interesting player, 12, 2 and 4 with 2 steals. I don't think he'd really take much of Dick's minutes if he was out playing different positions, but he's just a name to keep a little bit of an eye on. The next side of this is the Orlando Magic. Wendell Carter Jr., 32 minutes, 14, 9 and 5 with a block. An incredibly good game. Very good game, in fact. Ridiculously good game. He's actually necked his way. Necked his way? That's not the right term. What the hell is that term? No, he has moved his way. He's inched his way. He's crawled his way. He's pushed his way into the top 100 over the last 2 weeks. I still can't really be moved to care. But if you are, then cool. He played 32 minutes. He's back, locked in, starter, 100% over Goga Bitadze, who had 1 point in 16 minutes. I doubted myself a lot, but it did seem very, very obvious that this would end up happening. But I did doubt myself because Goga was playing well. But that's where we're at. Powell, 23, 4 and 5, and elite free throws. What world is this? Well, Franz Wagner had 25 and 4. No defensive stats. Franz has been a little bit down. Not terribly down, but a little bit down. We know that Jalen Suggs had that injury now. He's having surgery. His season's done. Just drop him, please. He's not coming back. I feel very confident that he's not returning this season. So that means we're going to get Cole Anthony and Mr. Black. And Cole Anthony played just 23 minutes. Of course he did. 7 points on 27%. Steal, block, 3. He's useful to stream in, but I would never feel confident in having Cole Anthony as just a guy that I lock into my roster. Never, ever. If he's in my roster, he gets turfed so I could add other guys in to get the 6 or 7 games through streaming. Anthony Black is in a horrific shooting slump. 17% from the field, 7, 1 and 2, no defensive stats, no threes. He also currently is a bad player. And he will have the occasional pop-off game, absolutely. That'll happen, but we don't need to care about it realistically at all. Corey Joseph got a little bit of playing time as well with point guards out, while Jet Howard continues to be the first guy off the bench and continues to do nothing. 5 points in 14 minutes. They had pick 6 and pick 11 in that draft and got Jet Howard and Anthony Black out of it. And I think some of it is just luck as to where they fell. But man, that is, have 2 high picks and get like nothing out of both of them is pretty rough. Maybe they become solid. I don't know. But at the moment, it's very, very rough. The Oklahoma City Thunder took on the San Antonio Spurs, first of a back-to-back for the Thunder, so Chet sat this one out. That meant that Isaiah Hartenstein started. No idea whether Chet is sitting because it is just the first game of back-to-back or because of the ankle that ended his game early last time. But this is what we got. No Isaiah Joe in this one either. It was a great game from the Bronco, who's been, honestly, just a little bit sort of down since the first 2 months of the season or whatever it was, first month. But 41, 6 and 7 with 4 threes is unbelievably good. Shea was also great, 31, 4 and 8 with 2 blocks. And the Hong Kong Mattress played 35 minutes. Carson Wallace, 19, 3 and 4 with 4 threes. And he did that without really doing it defensively. Just a big scoring outburst from Wallace. And honestly, I just don't really buy into it. But it helps for a few reasons. Joe was out. Chet was out. Kenrich Williams got ejected and Lou Dort got ejected. And tomorrow, he might get another opportunity to start. I don't know. Do they bring Hartenstein off the bench again? Wallace is in that TMC group of just those rotatable guards. It's him. It's Aaron Wiggins, who had another 17-point performance, missed both his free throws weirdly, who remains on the fringes to me without being a must. Caruso, who had 10, 1 and 2 with a steal and a block, again, probably just on the fringes. Same with Isaiah Joe, who's probably a level behind them. Nice enough from Isaiah Hartenstein, 10 and 11 with 6 assists. I would be holding him. Yes, I know that the idea would be that you drop him because Chet is back and the production has been a little bit underwhelming, but I actually want to see Chet back on the floor from this ankle injury versus just assuming he comes back tomorrow. And then we can reassess it with Hartenstein. I would not have any hesitation in dropping guys if I think it's the right move. I can be a little bit quick on that, but I do not think it's the right move with him just at this point, Isaiah Hartenstein. On the Spurs side of things, what we wanted to really check in this game, is it just going to be the bench doing it again? And the answer is pretty much yes. Sohan only played 25 minutes. It's frustrating that he just won't get 30. But he had 17, 4 and 4 with a 1-1 and shot 79%. It's a very good game. I don't mind grabbing him and just seeing where we go. Steph Castle, they are committed to just letting this man do everything. And while I don't think it'll end up delivering wins, maybe it'll be good for his development. I don't know. 32 points, 8 rebounds, 4 threes. He shot the ball really well from the field. Unfortunately, he shot the same percentage from the line, 57, which is not good. And no defensive stats. He still remains a completely frustrating fantasy player because 32 points should be great, and it's not bad. But he's a point guard who got 3 assists with no defensive stats and then stunk from the line. And over the last 2 weeks, he's 168th. Okay, that's not very good. In points leagues, it's a very clear must because they got to pump the minutes in, and apparently he's just going to get 30 usage a night, which again, he should not be dealing with. But he is, and they're doing it. So I probably would grab him, even though I do worry that there's going to be some absolute implosion games. Vassell, who's after a couple of really bad ones, has stabilized a bit. 15, 3 and 5 with a 1-1. That's not ideal, but it's fine enough. While De'Aaron Fox had 20 and 4, and that's not that great. 28 minutes for Chris Paul. 6 points with 6 assists and 2 threes. Now, the minutes are back up, but we are pretty much there, I think, where you can just consider that a drop. Same with the pencil, if for some reason you've got him. Harrison Barnes. Barnesy!
Get that garbage out of here!
Yeah, I mean, do that, but also hit this sound. He got extra minutes in this one. He'd been at 19 the last 2. He had 14 points in 29 minutes. I think largely, again, Julian Champagny got ejected. We don't need to worry too much about him. We also don't need to worry about Bismack Biyombo, who had 2 points in 18 minutes, and they're just going small. Also, a very strong reminder that Keldon Johnson was not the winner from the Wembanyama injury. He was not moving into being a must-roster player. 7 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists is actually like a year's worth of assists from Keldon. But played 19 minutes and shot 60%, but only took 5 shots. And all the hullabaloo of the big games, like he's still 160th over the last 2 weeks. No, he's not, my bad. 125th, which to me is not good enough. It's not rosterable as you've just got to have the guy. He is streamable, and I streamed him this week to very good effect on the right days. There's luck involved, but I streamed it. But I would never for a million years thought, hey, I got to hold on to Keldon Johnson now. And I don't think you do either. You should not be. His roster percentage is through the roof. It's way too high. It just shouldn't be anywhere near that number at all. All right, so the next game, a tank-off, the Pelicans and the Jazz. The Pelicans bring back Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum. That meant that Bruce Brown went to the bench. Jordan Hawkins also went to the bench. So that's worth noting with those. And we'll talk Jose Alvarado in a second. But because there has been doubts about Jose's value and where it sits, but they are not, in my mind, prioritizing him at all. If there were two guards starting and it was Jordan Hawkins and Bruce Brown and not Jose, well, I think that tells you quite a bit. And, well, we might as well just get straight into talking about what Jose delivered in this game, because it won't take me long, because he had 3 points in 24 minutes with 2 assists and no steals and shot 14%. And while we could have had the assumption, maybe he is the guy to add with DeJounte going down, they didn't start him that first game after that, and then he struggled and he had some big games, but they are not doing that anymore. So,
Get that garbage out of here.
and while it's true, CJ might sit some games, but again, CJ sat the last game. Jose didn't start. They started Bruce Brown for whatever reason. Their other key trade deadline piece, the massive part of their future, Kelly Olynyk, started, played 26 minutes, had 26, 9, and 4 with 3 threes. Now, he had 14 points of those in the first quarter, so slowed down a bit, but that's ridiculous. Let me throw this out though. Look who they played. Yep. And your first thought might be, it's a revenge game, of course. Of course it was. But also, it's the Jazz, and they're bad. And the players are bad. Now, I'm not saying that Olynyk can't put up some good numbers, because obviously he can. And this is basically close to vintage Kelly Olynyk. But really? Are we really going to get this all the time? I'd say no. I think he's okay to roster. I think he's totally fine to roster. And the Pelicans are the only team this week with 3 games in 4 nights to end the week. So there's some value in him just for that. So for now, you probably do roster him, even though this will push back. Yves Missi was mid 8 and 7 steal block. That's not must roster to me at all. Nor is Carlo Makovic, who had 6 and 5 with 2 blocks. Now, it is very possible that Makovic and Alvarado have a run where they play 33 minutes at some point this season. But I don't care, because we're not there at the moment. And I don't think that it's coming at any point soon. Zion played 29 minutes. He had 24, 6, and 9 with 2 steals. Another ridiculous game from him. While CJ had 25, 3, and 8. And Trey Murphy actually had a good one as well. Still didn't shoot well. Bruce Brown was fine, 8 and 8 with 2 steals, but we don't need to mess with him, nor do we mess with Jordan Hawkins, who had 8, 4, and 3. They were solid in that start they had, but that's it. You look at them as a one game, maybe, and they're starting, and then you go from there, and then if anything adjusts later on, it adjusts. The reason why I'm not going to read into huge amounts of things from either side of this game, to be honest, is have a look at the lineup the Jazz trotted out. I very much predicted this exact thing would happen, is that Walker Kessler sat out, John Collins sat out, Larry Markkinen sat out, Jordan Clarkson sat out, and Colin Sexton sat out. So Kyle Filipowski started. Bryce Sensabaugh started. KJ Martin started. Johnny Juzang started. But none of those were the star of the show. The star of the show was Oscar Tshiebwe. Yeah. 20 minutes, 16 and 13, a steal, 89% shooting, a plus 25. In a game, they might look at that and go, bro, you might have just been too good here. We won't play you ever again. He is a rebounding beast. But he's very undersized as a center, and he just... If I'm going to talk about the Pelicans, look who they played. Look who the Jazz played as well. Not much going on there. So while it will be very, very enticing to look at this game and chase this Oscar Tshiebwe performance, and remember that they played tomorrow, the Jazz, and I am not certain, but I think a lot of these guys will play the Markkinen, Collins, Kessler group. But then I think they'll sit the next 3. Or at least the next 2. Maybe the next 3. And it'd be very tempting to go back to Tshiebwe again. I just think this is a little flash in the pan. What I do like is Filipowski. 12, 11, and 7 with 2 threes. Bro blocked a million shots in college. I don't know why he can't block a single one in the NBA, but whatever. And he didn't hit his shots here. But he's the guy that I like. Sensabaugh had 21, 2, and 4. We know what he is, a high-volume scorer. The problem is he needs basically this exact scenario to give us value, because he just needs everyone out the way and him to be one of 2 guys who should take shots. The other guy that takes shots is Keontae George. He had 28, 3, and 6 with 5 threes. We just hold him. And then Isaiah Collier was fine, 11, 2, and 7, 1 steal, 2 blocks. But honestly, he's veering towards Killian Hayes type territory, where you go, what am I going to get with the shooting numbers? I'll get some assists for sure. But volume scoring, no. Some defensive stats, yeah. I still think we're holding him, but he is moving into the Is it worth it with Collier if the games played don't make sense for the week? I'm not there yet, but it's getting there. Michael Potter played 22 minutes. He had 8 and 6 with 2 threes. He had 3 assists, a steal, and a block. He's not going to play every game, but whatever. And just keep an eye on the package, Jaden Springer. 18 minutes, 7 with 3 assists. He's a steals guy. He can get out of position blocks. And if they ever have to... Look, you played 18 minutes here. And a lot of guys are out. There might be just something deep league there. I reckon you'd probably have to set my nutsack on fire before I get excited about adding Cody Williams. 5 points, 17 minutes. You can't write anybody off for their NBA careers. He's 19 years old and in his first season, but when the two things converge, when you go, "Oh, I don't like this guy as a draft prospect," and he plays in the NBA, go, "Oh, yeah, it's actually worse than I thought." It's very hard for me to get off that opinion, and I'd be very concerned about what on earth happens here. But next season's a new thing, isn't it? We'll see where it goes. It's been bad though. All right, so let's go on to the next game. It is the Clippers and the Lakers. The Lakers were up big in this one. They couldn't pull it off, Giggity. They could pull it off. The Clippers couldn't pull off the comeback. The Lakers win 108-102. Bit disappointing the way the Lakers ended this game. I think they could have done a lot more than that, and they could have had a better result, but whatever. Norman Powell returned after being out all through since the All-Star break. He came back and moved into the starting lineup. Derek Jones Jr. was actually out of this game, so was Ben Simmons, not on a back-to-back. And Powell lasted 9 minutes. Hamstring. Guess what? Guess what they called it? Soreness. Yeah, they did. Soreness. 4-1-1. Now, I'm not going to go crazy at the Clippers here. I'm not going to say this because he wasn't out with a hamstring injury. He was out with an issue in his left knee, and now he's got right hamstring soreness. He did have a hamstring injury early in the season where he left due to soreness, and then they decided to bring him back in, and then he was out for like a week and a half there, and they still rushed him back too early. So, is it related? I've got no idea. But he has had a hamstring injury this season already. And now I'd expect, given he just missed a week and a half, or about a week and a half with a knee issue, that he's going to miss more time here, Norman Powell. Bogdanovic started the second half. He played 31 minutes. That's a great sign. But he had 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. But again, 31 minutes and 16 shots should make you go, ooh, are they going to do this? I don't know if they do, because Simmons and Jones were out, and Jones had been starting for Powell. So before you get overly excited about Bogdanovic, I'd probably just reel it in a little bit. Chrissy Dunn, this helps his minutes floor, even though he only played 27 minutes, but he had extremely early foul trouble. He had 15, 2, and 4, 1-1, just got to roster him at this point, I think. And Kawhi had 33 and 10 with not much else, but still 33 points. Inefficient night from Jimmy Harden, 13 points for him. He got 8 assists and 2 steals, but otherwise a little disappointing. And we got more minutes from Amir Coffey, 3, 3, and 3 for him, while Drew Eubanks moved into the backup role at center with Ben Simmons not there. On the Lakers side of things, the Lakers are missing a couple of starters. Rui Hachimura not there still. And of course, then Austin Reeves got hurt over the weekend. So Reeves wasn't there either. He, of course, has calf soreness. And we had a great quote from JJ Redick saying that when he's ready, he will be back. Thank you, that helps a lot. And then JJ also said, yeah, there's no, thankfully, there's no muscle or bone damage. All right, so why is he not playing? So he's just completely healthy? All right, sure. No problem. Luka played 37 minutes. He had a locker room trip in this one, but still got 37 minutes, 29, 6, and 9 with 2 steals. Makes sense to have traded him, surely. Just, yeah. Why? You just don't... He drinks beers. Get rid of him. Out of here. LeBron, not his best, but 17, 5, and 9, 2 steals and a block, while Gabe Vincent is the one that started for Reeves. He had 9 with 3 threes, a steal, and a block. We don't really care about Gabe outside of very, very deep formats, and that's it. And Finney Smith continues to start for Hachimura, but he's not really even close to a 12-team league guy. The other guy that's sort of around the mark for 12s is Jackson Hayes. He had 6 and 7 with 2 blocks. That's not enough to just be held on to. But the one who really stepped up is my man. I can't believe it. How did teams pass on this man? Dalton Connect. He had 19 points in 25 minutes. He hit 5 threes. He had 2 steals. He shot 70%. He has been in a horrific slump. This huge performance now, though, brings Connect up to be the 296th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. I say that, obviously, with a little tongue-in-cheek. But if Reeves and Hachimura do remain out, he will have an opportunity in like 16-teamers, or maybe 14-teamers, to be a points and 3 streamer, because he's going to have to play more. And we've seen JJ Redick do this before. If the shots go in, he will just give him a few more shots and a few more minutes. He believes in that sort of approach. And that's what will happen. But it's only because Rui and Austin Reeves are both out that we're even approaching that level of production from old mate, what do you call him? I forget his name. As I'm trying to figure out, where's my little lineup marker? I've got to figure out what's going on there. I don't know why that disappeared. Anyway, it's back up there. Dalton Connect starting. Not Dalton Connect. Gabe Vincent started for Austin Reeves. Sorry, I had Dalton Connect on the brain, obviously. Now we can do the final game of the night. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, this we'll start with the Wolves, but man, the Suns. The Wolves win at 116-98. Your final score here, easy win for them. Anthony Edwards returned. That meant that Terrence Shannon Jr. moved to the bench, and Julius Randle finally back. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker also moved to the bench. We'll start with the double royal. Randle played 34 minutes in his return. That's more than I expected. 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 threes, 57%. Fantastic. Still no Rudy Gobert, so we don't have a full understanding of the game, or of the rotations, but good game. Naz Reid started next to Randle. This is back-to-back absolute disasters from Reid in terms of shooting. 7 points on 20%. He did have 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block, and played a lot of minutes, so that's great. And we'll see what happens when Gobert returns, but safe for now. Same with McDaniels, who had 13, 7, and 4 with 3 steals. We'll see how, again, we're still going to see how everything plays out when we get a return of Gobert, but that's good for McDaniels, who has taken big steps forward. One other guy that was awesome here that didn't start, I thought he would, got that wrong, but Dante DiVincenzo played 27 minutes. He had 24 points, 8 threes, and 6 steals. That is a massive, massive game. Mike Conley struggled again. Surely the next one, Dante starts. Just grab him. Goose Edwards had 44, 5, and 7 with 6 threes, while Conley had 3 points in 20 minutes. Alexander Walker went scoreless in his 26, so if you were using him, and many were, you drop him. And then if you added Terrence Shannon, he played 7 minutes, and Rob Dillingham was out of the rotation. Jalen Clark played 11. So there was a nice little boost there from Shannon, but obviously there's just not enough minutes to go around for players like that. We will move on to the other side because, I don't know, is there a worse vibes team in the NBA than the Phoenix Suns? This is horrendous. I could go on about the things that Phoenix has done for a way too long, some may say. A very long time. For some of the way that they have approached things like the draft, scouting, G League development, trades. They don't care about so many things. And yeah, new owners in there now. Is he making James Jones do the moves? I hated a lot of the moves Jones did beforehand. So I don't know. And then somehow every team that Kevin Durant is on is the worst vibes team of all time. The Nets team with Kyrie and Harden, was it KD's fault? Don't know. He was there. What about the final season in Golden State? That was a pretty good vibes team, wasn't it? When him and Draymond were going to kill each other. And now this team. Again, is he just unfortunate? Probably. Honestly, I don't know what he did to contribute to the Nets thing necessarily, or even this one. But there's no way he is on this team next season, Kevin Durant. As for Durant, 26, 10 and forward, 2 blocks, 38 minutes. They're going to miss the playoffs, and they're going to give their pick to Houston. Devin Booker, 17, 4 and 5. Not a great game. He is also struggling a lot. And, or not a lot. It just hasn't been a good season from Booker. And Bradley Beal had 18 in 33 minutes in his return. With everybody back, BD&R did not much. 4 and 8, 25 minutes. Richards is a stream guy only. He is not a must-roster player. He's got value in certain little areas, and that is it, as that remains the case. And if you added Tyus Jones, you could go ahead and very, very comfortably jack.
Get that garbage out of here.
10 points in 17 minutes. What about with Bol? Well, that's not good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not good. 9 and 11 in 25 minutes for Bol with no defensive stats. Are we doing the Bol cycle again already? Big game. Wow, start. Gonna happen. No. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. All right, drop. Hey, back to Bol starting. Big game. Oh, no. Because again, he's not good. As long as he starts, though, we have to hold him and we have to use him because he can put up numbers. But again, he remains not very good. And at some point, that will all tick over and it will all make sense. And the coach will go, yeah. It's the thing that used to happen with Spoelstra with Thomas Bryant. You go, Tom Bryant, you're our backup center. Go out there and you go, well, who told this guy to go and play? And he gets benched. And then a couple of days later, you go in there and Spo goes, oh, looking for a backup center. You'll be, go in. You go, bro, who's this guy? Oh my God, he's terrible. Get him out of here. And I feel like I think Budenholzer might end up doing that with Bol again. And then It's like, oh, Bol couldn't be any worse. Like, what might he be? He might just be Bol, which is bad. Anyway, I know people love Bol, so people are going to take that to heart. Whatever. He's just not very good. Royce O'Neal played 14 minutes. What's going on? This bloke played 35 minutes about a week ago, and now he's done? Grayson Allen played 15 minutes. Is he done? What are we doing? This team makes no sense. Don't roster Grayson. Don't roster Royce. Don't roster Tyus. Don't roster Nick. They're stream level guys only, and even Royce and Grayson aren't even at that spot anymore. Just a complete disaster of a season from a team that I honestly don't know what they're doing half the time. And I don't think they do. Also, let's do lines of the night. Who gets the monstrous? It ended up being pretty close in the end, but the big result, the big name is Jalen Williams. He's your monstrous line of the night, 41 with 6 rebounds and 7 assists. Your waiver wire line of the night, the best performer available on a lot of waiver wires is Milk Jerome. 25 with 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 steals. A humongous game without Donovan Mitchell, and he was one of the players that confounds me the most this season. The young gun of the night is Superman Kal Ware. 12 and 8 with 6 blocks. Yes, there was overtime. I'm a little worried about how Spo handles things, but we're rostering him for now. And then the dud of the night, we have to go to New Orleans. He's 70% rostered on our advanced roster metric on Basketball Monster. It's Jose Alvarado. 3 points, 2 assists. I think move on. I don't think you need to hold him. Bye-bye. And that, I believe, is the end of the show. It is the fantasy playoffs starting now for a lot of leagues, including Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. So I will go through, and it will take a bit of time, and set all of the matchups for the playoffs across all of the leagues, so don't worry about it. The leagues will be set. I'm sure I'll get a question, hey, are the matchups set? No, I will go and do it, and I will adjust it, and then you will see the matchups appear. And that's okay. Hit the thumb, hit the bang, hit the subscribe, hit everything that you need to hit. Keep things positive. I hope you won your matchup. I hope you made the playoffs, if that is where you're at in your season. And I hope you had success in whatever else it was you're doing in your life today. Have some Irish whiskey, if you're old enough. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.